So we continue with the 16 days of activism, very important discussion. And when we consider human trafficking and the problems that associate and that surround that particular issue and the impact and the hurt that it brings to families and communities, it's a discussion that we must have. And we welcome, again, for the second time on the Zoom line from the Counter-Trafficking Unit, their Deputy Director, Kimoy Thomas Williams. Good morning, Kimoy. Great to have you again.
Hi, good morning, Jason. Thanks for having me. And good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, as I said, you know, the impact I could only imagine. It's one that really can hurt and cause a serious scar on families and communities, because when we hear of some of these raids where officers would have done their due diligence, done the investigation, they might have received a tip and they come in now and they rescue women, sometimes men who are trapped in sometimes residential areas. You see people within the said community, they are traumatized. They can't believe this is happening right within the living space. Just walk me through that scenario. We have heard of that kind of scenario in the news cycle just this year.
Right. Okay, so what happens usually is someone might call our hotline, the Counter-Trafficking Unit, stating that they believe there's an instance of human trafficking taking place in a particular place. So what would then happen is obviously surveillance would have to be done. So that could take up to months, sometimes it's weeks. And once the police officers find that, you know, there is a valid case of human trafficking or potential human trafficking, they then go in, they plan a rescue operation, and then they rescue these persons. So it is very traumatic, of course, because many times the victims, they just see police officers appear and they believe that they're in trouble. But our police officers are trained to treat with these victims in a very trauma-informed and victim-centered way. And of course, they are always accompanied by interpreters because many victims don't speak English. So what they do is that of the situation and they immediately take them for medical attention. Of course, it is very scary as well for the neighbors, but throughout Trinidad and Tobago, there are agencies as well that would provide counseling if that is needed. But to date, I've never come across any person that has really reached out for counseling because they were affected by the fact that a raid took place. What happens though is that they become more aware of, you know, situations and what to look out for.
I want to find out
that we have. Go ahead.
No, because I was going to let you continue, because obviously I can only imagine, you know, if you're in an area, especially a quiet area, an area where, you know, that's your home, your community, your place of solace, your sanctuary, and you recognize that your neighbor across the road, that kind of activity happening, strange cars parked up, people in and out of a particular space. You know, it will cause concern. People might actually feel, compelled to really make some noise, because ultimately that could bring down. I mean, it's sad that people might think about that bringing down the value of the place, but the reality is, if crime and criminality is happening in a space, you know, the possibilities are endless. Gunplay, all kind of stuff could take place, and folks really will not want that. And of course, there's the human, most importantly, the human toll, more than any value and financial understandings, the human tool, obviously.
Yeah, but no, you're correct, Jason, because a number of persons, when they call the hotline, they actually say that, when they're making the report, they say, look, I think 2 houses down the road by me has prostitution going on, we're seeing cars coming and stuff, and they do mention that, the value of their property. They say, you know, this place is so nice and it only has, you know, successful professional persons here, and we don't want this going on here, that kind of thing. So that is the type of reports we get as well, but we definitely do action it. We look at it because there are times when, yes, a bunch of Venezuelans might be in a house living, but it doesn't mean that they are victims of trafficking or they are doing illegal activities. So that is where the surveillance comes into play.
You think that's done strategically by the criminal elements to go into these places to almost hide in the open, to just basically kind of blend in with the community?
Yeah, definitely. And you see, this started really during COVID, because really and truly before COVID, when everything was open and life was running normal, what used to happen is that most of the trafficking, well, the sexual exploitation took place in the bars and the clubs. But remember, there was a point in time when bars and clubs were closed for almost 2 years. So what they started doing was moving their trade into private homes, all the more so residential areas, because those are places that are not really frequented by police officers. Yes, they have the patrols, but they are not looking really to see what is going on inside of these residential homes. It's more on the streets to make sure no one is lurking around, that kind of thing. So it was definitely a tactic. And we've also seen it move into the gated communities, but more domestic servitude where persons are hiring these illegal migrants or migrants, depending on if they have legal documentation, and they are letting them work as helpers in the home, but they are not being paid. You know, they are being treated really badly. They are beaten. So we have those things happening as well.
I want to find out, as we get towards December 10th, which is the International Human Rights Day, what are some of the initiatives, programs you're doing to, you know, get the message out there and to bring awareness to this very serious and relevant topic?
Right. So, well, human trafficking is, of course, linked to gender-based violence, because most victims would have experienced violence at some point. It doesn't have to be physical violence, but it could be mental violence, emotional violence. So we are definitely trying to get the word out there. We have partnered with the Communications Department from the Ministry of National Security, and we are doing a domestic violence board at the head office where members of staff can come and put little poems, pictures, or anything like that to commemorate the elimination of violence against women. Apart from that, we are doing a lot of outreach, especially to the schools, because we are trying to get the word out there to our young persons that violence is never the answer. And we are also putting into their minds that it's not only women and girls that can be victims to violence, but men can also be victims as well. So we are doing that a lot, especially in person. And it's amazing to see after the session, students coming up to us and saying, you know, they're so grateful for this session because now they're so much aware of what type of behavior is acceptable, what is not acceptable. So apart from the outreach, we are also working closely with victims of trafficking to ensure that they become more empowered so that they do not find themselves back in situations where they're exploited. So for these next 2 weeks, we are working vigorously with them, helping them with job preparation, sending out applications to them because they have legal documentation which would allow them to work in Trinidad. And we are also exposing them to a lot of courses so that they can become self-sufficient within a few months' time. So that is our goal as well towards them.
Yeah, lots planned for the next couple of days. And, you know, it's not only just up until December 10th, obviously. This is an ongoing process. You know, obviously, the work you're doing with your team, we commend the effort to really bring this conversation very much front and center, make it relevant, because there are many who still believe this is some kind of hoax. They feel, you know, keep people, you know, just putting themselves in place, you know, to work as a hustle. But there's a human toll, a very serious one. And I want to find out, though, because when we consider human trafficking and the fact that there are many who are underaged in that space also, going through the turmoil of that unfortunate construct and system, do you all work alongside, let's say, Insurance Authority when you all rescue those who are, let's say, under 18, or even those who are forced to work at such a young age and almost like their childhood is being robbed from them? You know, I just want to kind of, okay, we're just going to sort that out, get her back on the line, because, you know, when we consider the kids and the children, that's an important conversation. That's an important conversation. I think we would have lost Kimoy there, you know. Let's see if we could get her back on the line, because I really want to get an answer concerning that particular issue, because we have seen many times, you know, we have heard for the same news cycle, people are rescued and you recognize there are those who are inside the construct who are under 18, and legally, once you're 18 and above, you're considered an adult. 18 and under, you're considered, you know, well, still a child within the legal framework. So I just really wanted to get that particular word. So I'm still going to give her like a couple seconds. If not, we'll have to probably leave it there for now and get Kimoy back on the line another time. But again, just to put the information up, if you could do that, Tim, to remind folks that the 16 days of activism, it's on December 10th. It's International Human Rights Day. And as she would have mentioned, they're heading to the schools, trying to empower the young people, spread the word, and have conversations here within the media space to, again, bring forward awareness, understanding, so that we could have the smarts, have the understanding, have the eye when you see red flags. When you see red flags. Because let's be real, as she said, some of these activities was taking place in bars and certain spaces now that people were going in night. When COVID happened, just like everybody else, the criminal element had to pivot. They had to adapt, and they took the business now into the residential space. I remember I used to rent some years ago, and Kim, I was just giving a personal story here. I was renting some years ago.
I'm back. Mm-hmm.
And I remember, so I was living upstairs, and I said random cars, and another day I had no car back then, so I have to walk out to travel and things. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing a blow-up pool where a living room and a three-piece set supposed to be, and a TV supposed to be, a big blow-up pool in an apartment now. And, well, of course, the landlord got to recognize that some shady activity was happening. I don't know what was happening, but all I know is that the people had to move out and stuff. So this is something going on a long time, and I feel was some kind of, some kind of fun and games kind of, some kind of bacchanal was going on down there. And so this is, and this we talking here, this is years ago, eh? So people would have been using apartments and private homes a long time for these kind of activities. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to find out, in terms of children, when you all get minors, people under 18, do you all work alongside Children's Authority to rescue them?
Yes, definitely. Children's Authority is one of our main partners. So as soon as we get children, we refer them to Children's Authority. So they are responsible for placing them in homes. Something that is really good and we are really excited about is the opening of a home for victims of trafficking. So that is soon. We are hoping that we get it open before Christmas. And that home would be just staffed with persons that are specially trained to deal with victims of trafficking. And because of the fact that most of our child victims of trafficking are Venezuelan, we are also going to have a lot of cultural mixes to expose them to like English classes and also provide them with foods that they like. So, their Venezuelan meals and things, they would get a lot more of that as opposed to the Trinidadian foods. So we are really excited about the project because they're going to have a library, they're going to have laptops, even though they have access now to online learning, it's just going to be more tailored towards them. So we're really, really excited about that.
But this home will be more or less a transition process for the children because ultimately a child, the best environment will be to be reunited with their parents and their family.
Right, but you see, Jason, what happens is sometimes their families are not in a position to take care of them financially. So, of course, we wouldn't keep a child against the parents' will. Some parents wish for them to be returned home, and there are actually parents who ask if we can keep them. So that is what happens. And then when they age out on turning 18, we do transitional plans for them where we help them, just as I was saying before, with job preparation, as well as how to navigate through Trinidad, and then they more or less start lives here.
Okay.
So it depends on the parent.
Okay, well, Kemoy, listen, let's keep the conversation going. We would have had this conversation some months ago. Let's do it a little more often to just keep this topic top of mind, and we could give folks the necessary information so they're equipped, so they know the red flags when they see it in a particular area or space. Mm-hmm. Kemoy, all the best.
Thanks so much, Jason. So I look forward to being on the program again.
Definitely, anytime. That's Kemoy Thomas Williams, and she is the Deputy Director of the Counter Trafficking Unit. I tell you, I remember that big blow-up pool, and I saw a car man coming out with a towel and thing, in our apartment, in the hot sun on a random Wednesday and thing, Ah, boy, I tell you, never a dull moment. But you know what? We have agencies now charged to weed out that from the community. And well done. Well done to Kemoy and her team. Let's get ready for the police and youth segment. A new officer steps in today, acting ASP Bridgelal, as we continue with this gender-based violence and the 16 days of activism. We'll talk soon.